Can the dead ever return to save the living? This story revolves around a mysterious phone, a phone that does not exist for the voices of the living, but instead becomes a channel for the whispers of the dead. The chilling tale transports us back to the year 1978, to a small American town where posters of missing children fade to yellow on the walls, and the air itself carries an unshakable sense of fear. That fear grows darker because of a shadowy figure known as the Grabber, a sinister presence that preys upon innocent children. Amid this terrifying atmosphere, we meet Finney, a shy and timid boy who watches from the baseball field as Bruce, a talented player, strikes a powerful shot. Bruce is adored by the entire town, and the crowd erupts in applause for his victory. Yet no one realizes that this triumph marks the final game of his life. After the match, Bruce rides his bicycle home alone, unaware that a black van silently follows him. On a deserted road, the van stops, black balloons float out, and before Bruce can comprehend what is happening, the shadow drags him into eternal darkness. The town's fear deepens even further. The next scene takes us inside a home where peace does not exist. Only an unsettling dread lingers in the air. Finney and his sister, Gwen, tremble at the sound of their alcoholic father's footsteps. Since the passing of their mother, he has become less of a parent and more of a cruel tyrant, unleashing his rage on the children whenever intoxicated. With hesitant steps, the siblings leave for school, but along the way, another poster of a missing child makes Finney's heart race. Gwen wants to talk about the kidnappings, but Finney, naturally fearful, avoids confronting the horrifying truth. He believes that even speaking of evil might draw it closer. Later, inside the school washroom, a group of bullies corner Finney, but his loyal friend Robin arrives like a savior, driving them away. Robin is the only shield Finney has against the cruelty of the world. Yet the real mystery begins when two detectives arrive at the school, searching for Gwen. They have learned that she told a friend about a strange dream in which she saw black balloons. The police are stunned because black balloons were found at the crime scene exactly as she described. Suspicion rises that Gwen is hiding something, but she innocently explains that she often has dreams that turn out to be true. From this moment, it becomes clear that the danger ahead is not only human. It carries a supernatural force as well. The next morning, Finney's sleep shatters with a terrifying noise, and the sight before him chills his soul. His cruel father, consumed by drunken rage, unleashes violence on little Gwen with a belt. Gwen cries out in pain, desperately explaining that she never called the police. Rather, the detectives themselves came to school to question her about her dreams. But her father refuses to listen, warning her never to mention those false dreams again. Finney watches with clenched fists as his sister suffers. Yet his fear and helplessness keep him frozen, unable to intervene. Before the siblings can recover from this trauma, another tragedy strikes the town. Robin, Finney's loyal friend who always protected him, vanishes into the darkness of that same black van. News of Robin's disappearance spreads like wildfire, and the police search frantically, but no clues emerge. Devastated by the loss of his only shield, Finney pleads with Gwen to use the power of her dreams to try and find Robin. The following day, after school, Gwen goes to her friend's house, leaving Finney to walk home alone. He has no idea that he is heading straight into the jaws of death. On the roadside, he spots the ominous black van, where a man pretends to drop his belongings. Out of kindness, Finney tries to help, but the man distracts him with talk of magic tricks. Finney senses danger, yet before he can escape, the predator sprays something that makes him lose consciousness, and darkness consumes his vision. When Finney awakens, he finds himself imprisoned in a cold, damp, and suffocating basement. The silence alone feels enough to drive anyone insane. Standing before him is the masked abductor, who speaks with eerie calm, assuring Finney not to be afraid and claiming he will not be harmed. But Finney's frightened eyes know the truth. He is trapped in the clutches of a monster. The man locks him inside the dungeon-like room and leaves. As the heavy iron door slams shut, Finney frantically searches for a way out, running his hands along the walls, only to realize escape is impossible. In the darkness, his gaze falls upon an old black telephone hanging on the wall. He rushes to it, trembling as he tries to dial for help. But his hope shatters like glass when he notices the dangling wire cut in the middle. Broken and hopeless, he He sets the receiver down and collapses in despair, believing everything is over. What he does not yet know is that the very phone he thinks is useless, it hides the deepest and most terrifying secret. The only way out of this pit of death lies within that black phone. Finney's sudden disappearance throws his home into chaos. His family and the police search frantically across the entire town, but no trace of him is found. Meanwhile, in the dark basement, Finney sits hopeless and defeated. Then something happens that defies the very laws of science. Breaking through the deadly silence, the old, broken, and disconnected black phone hanging on the wall suddenly begins to ring. Startled, Finney picks it up, but the kidnapper storms in from behind, warning him that the phone has been dead for years and insisting it cannot save him. Terrified, Finney begs to be released and asks if the man is the one who killed his friends. The abductor coldly denies it, shuts the door, and leaves. Finney screams for help, but in the soundproof room his cries die against the walls, leaving him in despair. Then the phone rings again. He answers, but hears only silence. Exhausted, he drifts in his sleep, only to be jolted awake by the shrill ring once more. With trembling hands, he lifts the receiver, and a heavy, chilling voice calls his name. Shocked, Finney drops the phone in terror. Yet the ringing continues, and when he gathers courage to answer again, he hears Bruce's voice, the very boy who was the first to vanish. Bruce's spirit tells him that there's a spot on the basement floor where the soil is loose, and if Finney digs there, he might escape. Clinging to this fragile hope, Finney digs furiously, hiding the evidence by flushing the dirt down the toilet and covering the hole with a rug so the kidnapper won't suspect. After relentless effort, exhaustion overwhelms him, and he falls asleep beside his secret work. The next morning, Finney crouches in a dark corner of the basement as the iron door creaks open. His breath catches as the kidnapper enters with breakfast. But this time, the man has a sinister plan. On his way out, he deliberately leaves the door ajar, as if inviting Finney to escape. Believing this might be his only chance at freedom, Finney cautiously moves toward the door. Just then, the black phone rings again. When he answers, a frightened voice of a boy named Billy warns him not to go upstairs. It is a trap. The tension deepens as Billy's spirit stands right beside Finney, though unseen. The ghost explains that the kidnapper is playing a cruel game called Naughty Boy, waiting upstairs with a leather belt to beat him mercilessly the moment he crosses the threshold. Summoning courage, Finney tiptoes up the stairs and peers through the crack of the door. His blood runs cold. The abductor is indeed waiting, belt in hand, ready to strike. Billy's warning saves Finney's life, and he silently retreats back into the basement. Barely escaping the deadly trap, Finney pretends to eat his food and then lies down as if asleep, so the monster suspects nothing. Soon, the black phone rings again, and the water bottle beside him begins to shake as though moved by an invisible force. A voice tells him that inside the opposite wall lies a strong cable. If he can pull out, he can hook it to the bars of the high basement window and climb up. The bottle spins toward the window, guiding him. With renewed hope, Finney digs into the wall, retrieves the cable, and strains to secure it to the window bars. He climbs with all his strength, but fate betrays him. The iron grill rips loose from the wall and crashes down with him. His last chance of climbing out is gone, and seeing this, Finney collapses in despair, completely broken. Meanwhile, the detectives continue searching for clues, knocking on doors and questioning residents. They arrive at a house where a strange, eccentric man invites them inside. He claims to have researched the case himself and confidently shows them a map, insisting that the missing children must be somewhere in this area. The detectives dismiss his words as madness. When asked how long he has lived there, the man explains that he actually resides elsewhere and that this is his brother's house. The police do not take him seriously and leave. But once they are gone, a shocking truth emerges. Finney is imprisoned in the basement of that very house. The authorities unknowingly walk away from the killer's doorstep, empty-handed. A short while later, the kidnapper returns with food and tests Finney by asking his name. Nervously, Finney says his name is Taylor. The abductor grows irritated, telling him that if he had spoken the truth, he might have been released. Once again, the man leaves the door open as a trap and goes upstairs. As Finney moves toward the door, the black phone rings, but no voice answers. He realizes this is a warning. The monster is waiting upstairs with a belt, ready to play his cruel naughty boy game. Showing caution, Finney retreats to his mattress. In the darkness, he hears footsteps. When he switches on his flashlight, his blood freezes. He sees the spirit of a boy hanging in the air. Terrified, Finney watches as the ghost points toward the phone. He answers, and the voice of a boy named Vance speaks, warning that time is running out. Finney asks why the kidnapper has not killed him yet. Vance explains that Finney has not played the naughty boy game, and until he breaks the rules, the killer cannot strike. The abductor is waiting for him to make a mistake. Vance then reveals that the kidnapper has grown tired of waiting and has fallen asleep in his chair. This is Finney's chance to escape. Vance tells him about the lock on the main gate, saying he once wrote the PIN code on the wall, though he cannot recall the full combination. Finney finds the faint numbers scratched on the wall and realizes he must figure out the rest himself. Summoning courage, he creeps upstairs and sees the abductor fast asleep. Crawling to the main gate, he trembles as he tries different combinations. After several failed attempts, the lock finally clicks open. As Finney steps into the open night air, the creak of the door awakens the kidnapper. Finney runs with all his strength through the silent streets, but the abductor chases him in his van, ramming into him and knocking him down. Finney's dream of freedom shatters as the monster drags him back, throws him into the basement, and leaves. His hope dies once again in the darkness. Broken after his failed escape, Finney lies on the floor. Suddenly, the cursed phone rings again. This time, instead of fear, he answers in anger, shouting into the receiver. A heavy voice responds. It is Vance's spirit, sitting right behind him on the mattress. Vance warns that today is the day the kidnapper intends to kill him, and time is running out. He explains that the wall behind the toilet has weakened from dampness, and beyond it lies a freezer room that connects to a storage area, offering a possible escape way. Finney thanks him, but Vance's eyes burn with hatred. He screams that he is not helping for Finney's sake, but for his own revenge. His rage is so intense that glass bottles in the basement rise into the air and smash violently against the walls, shattering into pieces. On the other side, Gwen experiences a vivid vision while in her bathroom. She sees herself inside a police van, guided by Vance's spirit, who shows her the path to the house where Finney is imprisoned. Meanwhile, Finney clings to his last hope, using the toilet lid to smash the weakened wall with desperate force. After hours of exhausting effort, he manages to break through and crawl into the freezer room. But fate betrays him again. The heavy freezer door is locked from the outside. He pushes with all his strength, but it does not budge. With his final hope shattered, Finney collapses in despair, sobbing in hopelessness. Just then, the black phone rings one last, crucial time. Finney answers, and hears the voice of his closest friend, Robin. Robin encourages him, telling him that today is the day he must fight for himself. He explains that escape is no longer the answer. Finney must face the monster head-on. Robin teaches him how to turn the useless phone into his deadliest weapon. Finney acts immediately, stuffing the dug-up dirt into the receiver to make it heavy like a stone. He sets a trap on the floor using the cable griffin once mentioned, and hides in the shadows like a hunter waiting for his prey. At the same time, Gwen leads the police to a deserted house, guided by the map from her dreams. The officers break down the door and begin digging in the basement. They uncover the bodies of missing children, but Finney is nowhere to be found. The detectives realize with horror that they are in the wrong house. The killer lives in the one directly across the street, and this place is only his graveyard. Meanwhile, across the road, the kidnapper's brother Max discovers the truth about the basement and rushes down to save Finney. But before he can act, the killer strikes from behind, killing him with an axe. For Finney, this is another devastating blow. Now, only he and the ruthless abductor remain in the basement. The killer charges at him with the axe, but falls face first into the trap Finney has set. This is the moment Finney has been waiting for. With all his strength, he smashes the heavy phone against the kidnapper's face repeatedly, then wraps the cord around his neck and tightens it. Finney fights with everything he has, breaking the monster's neck. The reign of terror finally ends. Finney climbs the stairs and steps into the outside world. As he emerges from the house, he sees Gwen and the police cars waiting. Gwen runs to embrace him, and in this emotional moment, the horrifying journey comes to an end. A lifeless phone and the spirits of lost friends together pull Finney out of the darkness of death and back into the light of life. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button